Apple's coming out with like a lot of content.
Who is? What?
There's a lot
On
of
the
content.
Apple
Oh,
Apple Plus or Apple
yeah.
whatever.
I
Apple
highly recommend
Supreme.
the morning show with Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell.
Yeah.
It covers some very tough topics, but the show itself is really really good.
On the podcast on the plane to and from, they had free Wi-Fi, and you couldn't use data, but you could watch shows using the plane's Wi-Fi, and all of the shows were Apple Plus premieres or content, whatever you want to call it. And so I watched a couple Apple Plus shows. I'm like, dang it, now now I wanna now I wanna finish watching these, which is probably the point of putting those on airplanes anyway.
Yep.
Wes, is it just my video feed that's showing on the? I only see my video on the live stream.
You should be seeing it changing as you're watching it.
Oh,
No?
is it going to change automatically?
Well, no. It should look different now.
Oh, look at that, Wes! That is cool.
It's not quite how I wanted it, but that's the idea. Is it okay? It's a little weird, but
The light coming
blur.
off of the
yeah,
the blur.
yeah. Should I just get rid of that? I can get rid of that. I mean, otherwise, I was just going to do this, which is our old standby. This is.
I just wondering where you guys were.
I mean, I like it.
I'm just
That's
go
not
with this
too
one.
bad.
I'm just going to go with this one.
Yep.
It's cleaner. The other one needs more work, more than 10 minutes that I'm willing to give it right now. Okay.
Okay.
Let me mute my phone. So it doesn't do any stupid crap. Okay.
All right.
I'm probably gonna do that a lot. My daughter does not want me to shave it. She's like, "Don't shave it." Okay.
Great. What's up, Internet? You are listening to the Making Geeks podcast for makers, families, and geeks. So, gentlemen,
Miss you guys.
I miss you.
I miss you guys too.
Oh.
It kind of feels I'm not sure if the show's going to be quite the same after that last weekend, in just in a small way. You know, we've been doing the show for about 5 years now, and Donovan, you joined in like I think it's 2 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, after 5 years, I feel like I know Wes and Donovan, you to a degree, just talking every week. But after this last weekend, it feels a lot different, and it's kind of a weird thing. And we developed these relationships online like this, talking during the week, and when we see each other at big events like Maker Faire or for like you guys for like a Workbench Con. But when you stay with somebody like 5 days straight, especially in somebody's house, there's a different type of relationship that's built, and sometimes you don't know if you're going to get along as well or any of those things or other conflicts. But no, it was pretty much like I would have hoped, and it was awesome spending that time with you guys.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's good to have you.
And we were up till like what, 2:00 in the morning most nights, and just talking.
It was a weird sleepover party for 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
Or almost 40-year-old.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was like summer camp. Because coming back from that definitely felt like coming back from summer camp. Coming off the high of everything that happened over the past, and well, I mean, for us it was only 5 days, but still, it was a pretty awesome 5 days.
It's like yeah.
Good.
I was gonna say it's like a maker hangover, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think it's the first time I've ever had some pretty deep conversations with other adult males, as an adult, which doesn't usually happen. Anything like that is usually just with my spouse or like that. So
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
some pretty close bonding happened over the last 5 days or so.
No sponsor.
Hmm?
Rapid Fuse by DAP. No, sorry. You said the bonding. That's terrible. It says
Bond-
it, said,
okay.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
it says bonds virtually everything. It says it on there.
Uh-huh.
That's not a very popular one. I should
Smart.
have said like super glue or crazy glue, I guess. Anyways, yeah, it was great having you guys here, and it was a lot quieter after everybody left. The kids were asking like, when they coming back? When's Donovan? Like Grant was like, when's Donovan coming back? Is he coming back soon?
You just want somebody to shoot
Yeah, that's true. He's
That's
tired of me
pretty-
or do
dominating.
karate hands with.
Yeah,
That was a pretty epic battle with some very very jarring screaming happening at the same time.
Yeah, the pinnacle was Wes pulling out that AT-AT that fires Nerf bullets. That thing was fantastic.
it didn't work on cue like I hoped. It never misfired ever before. And then that first time, it's like, not shooting, not shooting. I'm like, come on. Are you serious? And it's worked perfectly since. So I don't know. Because Grant's been messing with it. Trying not to. Like it's one of my. I don't have a lot of toys that I like deem as like mine that he can't mess with, but I have a couple select things. And that was one that I just bring out every once in a while. And I brought it out since then. And he's been messing with it. And then he goes into the kitchen, comes back and like completely trips over it, knocks it over, blows the right leg off. And it's just like, he's like a snow speeder or whatever, just like totally toppled the thing over. I'm like, really? Like, okay. It didn't break it. It's meant to disassemble that way, like in the box, I guess. But it's a little jarring, like have it like that precious thing. But it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's all fine.
So I got
Have
back
you,
home. I got back home late Monday night. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's been almost 3 days. I've been back. Have you guys been up to much in that time? Because it's only been 3 days. I don't know if you guys can hit the ground running with other projects or just real life sets in too quickly to
No,
kind
like
of ride the wave.
you shared that like little gif before we jumped on here of just like a kid on a swing, like dragging his hair in a puddle or something like that, like upside down, just like he's just
Yeah,
kind
I might have to post that somewhere else so people can see the reference.
he-
You should.
yeah, he's just kind of just like there, just like what now kind of thing. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's I get that feeling like when I'm at Maker Faire and like as I'm Maker Faire or Workbench Con or any of those sort of events, like you're like, yeah, I'm so jazzed, and then like whenever it actually ends and ended, I'm like, I don't want to do anything, but I don't want to feel that way, but it always happens, and it's just I don't know. It's you guys feel that way, Donovan? You say you're like you want to be like on the ground running, so it sounds like you're not that way, but I'm always like that.
I mean, it's a little different because I watch my kids during the day, and having been gone for 5 days, which is not me not being here is not something that they're used to at all.
Yeah.
And so every day since I've been home, my youngest has not let me put her down, like at all. She just clings to me like I'm gonna leave again or something like that. So every time I try to pull her down, I have to like try and pull her away from my face. And when I try to put her down, she like lifts her legs up. It's kind of like no bones, but the opposite, where she like crumples up, and so you can't set her down. You're like, oh, okay, all right, let's go do whatever. I haven't been able to work on anything yet. So I don't.
You haven't had the chance to
said,
feel
I
like
haven't
that, yeah.
I haven't done anything yet. But I don't feel like I've lost my motivation for when I do start working on stuff.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I did one small thing. I fired at the laser and I did a test, which was probably a bad idea at the same time. I had bought a set of slate coasters from a thrift store. I'm like, oh, that's great. I could get like 80 of these slate coasters for like $4. I'm like, that's great. And something never felt right about them. I'm touching them and like they look like slate. They kind of feel like slate, but when you tap them, it doesn't sound like stone. I'm even trying to break stuff off because I know slate should be fairly brittle. So I did a test and stunk up the garage, and I hope it wasn't anything toxic. And I talked to Wes late last night. He's like, "Yeah, there's a lot of fake ones out there. Got to be careful." I'm like, "Well, I think I just engraved some plastic on the K40, which I didn't really intend to. It came out kind of cool looking, unfortunately, but
I think I did
I
that.
don't know
It's
what
for
I'm
like
gonna
an
do.
injected mold plastic, or
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It smells somewhat familiar. So I mean, I can't say if it's like HDPE or
smells like death. A little familiar.
I don't think it's vinyl. I don't think vinyl gets formed that way. But I had good exhaust, but it still stunk a little bit. So I have to. That's the only making related thing I've done so far, other than editing our previous episode that just went up today. So we might be doubling up on episodes this week,
Nice.
which yeah,
We're,
you probably should do because it's been
yeah.
a little while.
Yeah, there's been a little
Yeah.
lag there.
Yeah.
we fully intended to record on the appropriate day last week. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, you get so wrapped up in
Which is okay.
conversations and things going on. And
Oh,
we were also trying to surprise people that live here, and that was like a little conflict to it as well, and it just sort of it didn't align properly. But we got it done. I thought it was cool. I thought we had a different perspective at the end than we would have had at the beginning too. Like at the beginning, it wouldn't have been that much different than normal. Just it would have been the same sort of feeling, I think, that we're normally like used to having with each other, just locally. And then I think, like you said, after that period of time, we're just gotten to know each other in a different way, even though we've known each other for many years. I think that hopefully came through in the recording, at least some camaraderie. It was a little stale little hard at the beginning. I think we weren't really sure, like the bantering and stuff. But I felt like we got into it after a little bit, and I enjoyed it. So,
Well, and I said it on the previous episode as well that it was kind of weird to kind of have to switch gears and talk on the podcast because we've been talking nonstop for almost 5 days at that point.
that's true. That's true.
Like, and now we have to put our podcast hats on. Like, okay, what have we not already talked about?
Any one of those conversations, we just could have plopped a little microphone down in the middle of the table, and that could have been a podcast in and of itself.
We almost should have recorded the weekend in a different way.
Yeah.
And probably could have got a lot of content out of it, but well, I guess next time.
Mm-hmm.
Although that being said, it was kind of nice not focusing on just trying to create content.
Yep.
Like I went into this whole trip with the idea that I might make an entire video of the whole process of going on the trip and like getting together and everything that we're doing, and like something that we might build together because we talked about the possibility of like making something together. But that being said, it was nice to just not do anything.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about pulling out my camera and capturing this and capturing that. I did a couple times, but I mean, other than that, it was just hanging out with my buds. It was fantastic.
We had started the making process. I mean, you and Josh were working on something, and Wes and I were looking at putting together the droid. And then I don't remember what happened. Something kind of fizzled out to where we didn't take the next step.
Yeah, we were
and
like,
actually
we could
assemble
do this.
anything.
We could do that. Yeah, probably Rayman. Yeah.
We'd spent about an hour figuring out how to put one of the droids together that Wes is planning on working on, and then it just kind of fizzled out, and then something else took our attention.
Yeah, I was the Gatekeeper Droid is what we were kind of messing with the most, and I was a little bit bummed because the instructions are so, I think, poor for that, and it felt like I was gonna have to put way more like lead time into that to get it ready to be able to be like collabed, if that makes sense. Like it felt like I needed more prep time ahead of it before it was at a state that we were able to work on it together, and it felt like I was just treading water trying to muddle through the crappy instructions. I don't know, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did, because like a lot of those games and stuff that I introduced a lot of you guys to are great party games and stuff, and everybody seemed to enjoy them. So
yeah, it was a blast. Thank you, Wes.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure that little bits and pieces will come out into our conversation over the next couple of episodes. because there's so much that was talked about in those 5 days that it's kind of hard to go back and do like a play-by-play. So
And we can thank our patrons because they help make all of this possible.
They did.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody that helps support the show. Because you gave me and Sean and Wes and Josh and hopefully everybody else that showed up for our little maker meetup and an opportunity to do something that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do had it not been for all of your guys' contributions. So I know we usually save this part till the end of the podcast, but seriously, thank you.
Definitely.
And the trip also gave me a little bit of an existential crisis coming back home into this little box that I call home, and looking at my backyard, and it's like it must be like 60 or 80 feet from my back door to the block wall before a busy street starts, and still thinking back, looking off Wes's back deck into that forest. So there's a lot of conversations that happened with my wife and kids when I got back home regarding all that stuff.
Yeah, we were wondering where Sean was one morning, and Catherine's like, I think he's out near the playground. So she looks out there. He's taking pictures, of the back, in the woods behind her house, and the place where you were taking the picture, it's this rainwater culvert creek bed thing that is just a gully that we just toss old Christmas trees down into. There's nothing of significance. And he's like, he's so fascinated with that. That's crazy.
I didn't know you guys realized I was taking pictures down there.
Oh, it's funny.
Kind of embarrassed now.
One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? No, it's fun. The kids love gallivanting around in there and trying to play with all the different fallen trees and everything. It's definitely a different environment than what you're used to, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to have provided that inspiration.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And it's terrible because I got to the point on the trip where I was like, just stop showing me stuff here. Just stop it. Because everything you're showing me is so dang awesome or quaint or just, it was green. There was trees everywhere. It wasn't insanely hot. It's such a nice place. And then I come back here and it's 115 degrees outside. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I could be living somewhere much cooler than here. Don't tell anybody, but my wife and I actually talked about moving.
Uh-oh.
So it's just a conversation.
Yeah,
there's a 99% chance that nothing's going to happen, but it's funny how it has sparked the conversation of could we do this? Could we do this? And it's terrible because Cary is such a cool place.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see myself living there.
Donovan was the last person to leave. Josh and Sean left earlier in the day, so we had like 2 hours or so before Donovan had to leave, and we were driving back to the house, towards the house. He's talking about green spaces and stuff. I'm like, hey, is there anything you wanted to see that we weren't able to see? Do you want to see, you were mentioning parks? Do you want to go see a park? Check out some cool stuff? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, dang. Fine then. But yeah, I get it.
It's not that I didn't want to.
I get it.
I didn't want to be any more sold.
Show me your
sold enough.
worst landfill just to balance it out, will ya?
Just shut up and take my money. Yeah, it was that moment. So I feel you, Sean. I feel you.
Yeah. At least you still have space at your house. So it feels claustrophobic here now.
I was trying to think of an awesome segue through all those words, but I couldn't find one.
Well, I think that, I could picture a variant of myself living in North Carolina very, very easily.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep, there it is.
Speaking of
So
variants,
today we are going to be doing our spoiler cast of Loki. We talked about it a little bit over the last several days, but we didn't really do an in-depth conversation, so we're kind of saving that for here. And hopefully all of you are caught up with the show, so you're kind of ready for the conversation as well.
For the
and we'd love
entire
to hear,
season.
yeah, for the entire season.
Yep.
And we'd love to hear anybody's feedback and their opinions on the show too, which you could, hit us up on any of our socials, and we could kind of, respond and continue talking about that too in a later episode. So Loki, and we found out this is season 1 because there is going to be a season 2.
Which is awesome.
What do you guys think?
It was my most anticipated Disney Plus show ahead of all the other ones, and I'm happy to say that it lived up to my expectations, and I really would struggle to find anything I didn't like about it.
It
Well,
was
yeah.
not my most anticipated show, but it became my most anticipated show after each one of the previous ones finished, and I was being left wanting with each one that didn't seem quite right. And then I think Loki had all this other pressure too. But I think it delivered. I think it was phenomenal. I could probably nitpick things, but it would be kind of dumb to do that, given that the story is still kind of in progress. And I think they did a phenomenal job. It was great.
And also,
Yeah.
like, I have to at least establish that I'm a little bit biased because my dog's name is Loki. So it's clear that I had an interest in the character before, and he's easily the best villain out of the MCU, hands down. I don't think maybe they used him as effectively all the time in all the different times he's on screen, but always had a smile on my face whenever he was doing something on screen because you just knew that he was like messing with somebody or had an alternate plan and this and that. Yeah, what did you think, Donovan? Your general synopsis.
I'm more in the camp of with Sean in that it wasn't my most anticipated because we had WandaVision, which started off really strong but kind of fizzled out at the end. Then we had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which we've talked about our opinions of that show, and so it was hard to know what to expect, if to expect anything from the Loki show. And considering the fact that the character is Loki, it was almost easier to expect the unexpected because he is the god of mischief. So one of the things is it being Wednesday night instead of Friday night because of course it's Loki. That's good marketing right there, by the way. But I was blown away every episode by how easy it was to get wrapped up in the story and have that sense of wonder that you don't often get with a lot of Marvel properties because they go for like spectacle. And so I loved it. I loved that. Every episode of that show I thought was just fantastic. Some were better than others, but overall I thought it was great.
I'm surprised there wasn't, especially on your part, Donovan. And if I'm misrepresenting you on this, let me know. Because of how you typically feel with them bringing characters back and not letting them die, and I don't know if Loki just lives as an exception because of the nature of the character, but I was under the impression at one point that Loki's storyline was done because of what happens in, was it beginning of Endgame? I think it is, or is it Infinity War? I forget which one.
Yeah,
Infinity War. And it looks like Loki's story is done, that he has no more story responsibilities. So how is there a show about him? I think that the way that they justified it is really smart, and it's like this bridge into the multiverse conversation, which I'm sure that we'll get to. So I think that it makes sense of the way they did it, but I initially was a little bit confused about, well, how are they still doing something with this character when this character is done? He's not actually dead. And then now we have the concept of the variant that works for Loki, but hopefully does not kind of retcon everything else that they've been establishing. Because then I think Donovan will be up in arms again.
yeah, I'd be with you in that too. They have to use it selectively and not just use it as
I keep putting Donovan on the chopping block, but I would also feel that way at this point after being so emotionally invested in everything they've served up to us.
Yeah, because I do have to say that like Loki's death in Thor: The Dark World, I think was like one of the most meaningful deaths in the Marvel's MCU. Like even more than Black Widow and like all those other kind of stuff. I think his arc up to the point where he died, I think was just so well done. But then he came back, and I'm like, nothing means nothing anymore.
And not only that,
That
he came back with any, it felt like any justification or any explanation of, like, hey, he's here.
yeah.
But in
So
that
it's
that
funny
character, if
that
anyone, good.
no, well, I was just gonna say it's
Yeah,
funny because it's like that moment specifically is
yeah.
what kind of jaded me a little bit in terms of nothing mattering in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But then to come full circle with the show and how they brought him back, but it was done in such a really well done way that I fell in love with the TV show.
I was gonna say like, but Loki, being a trickster and mischievous, he was the only one in that instance that could have gotten away with that. You know what I mean? Like it's part of his character, like attributes to be mischievous, and like it's not outside of the realm of possibility for him to fake his own death to his own death to further his own like agenda and stuff. So I felt that that was justified. And also they used Matt Damon playing Loki like in his little like little skit or whatever. I thought that was like super
Yeah.
awesome because of how Matt Damon played Loki before, and I thought that was like a super meta joke that I think a lot of people maybe didn't pick up on, but I enjoyed it. But yeah,
I, I think there's something inherent about the character that not a lot of people fully realize. They hear the term like God of Mischief, but in literature, Loki is what is usually classified as like a trickster character of somebody who is not necessarily good or bad, but typically causes chaos or messes things up. And if that was better understood, people would probably have an even fuller understanding of the character and why the arc might even be happening that way.
And they're typically the catalyst for progression
They are. They are.
in any
Mhm.
mythology. The only other one I can think of at the moment would be Maui, because Maui, I guess, was the Loki of Polynesian culture, or vice versa. Loki is the Maui of Greek culture, but yeah, catalyst for change and progress and stuff. Speaking of which, I know we kind of had this conversation already, but how do you feel about the ending of Loki?
I loved the actor and that was playing Kang. Like I loved his like mannerisms and like his personality. And I know he won't always have that specific personality every time we see him. But I love the way he was like introduced as just like a normal dude. In a way, it kind of reminded me of Iron Man 3 a little bit with like the Trevor Slattery or whatever it was, who was like supposed to be the Mandarin, but it was like Ben Kingsley's like fake Mandarin. He was kind of playing the part, but actually ended up being kind of silly and jokey. Like a lot of people didn't like that spin or that plot twist in Iron Man 3. I actually liked it because it was something that I did not expect, and at that point I got Marvel was kind of getting formulaic, so I actually enjoyed that sort of twist. But I got a little hint of that, so which I liked, and I also just enjoyed how he was like explaining things that the show is like creating questions for. Like so many times you end up with like a huge cliffhanger at the end of a series. They have to wait till the next like season premiere next time to get the answers for those. But this one they were just like, "Oh, you got a question? Let's answer that. Let's answer it." Now, a lot of them could have been BS. We don't know which ones were, but we're assuming that most of what he said is true. And I just loved all that. Like I ate it up. Like it was sort of like Lost, the TV show Lost. There were a lot of elements that reminded me of that show where they had like characters doing a thing because they were always told to do a thing, and then they actually like stopped doing the thing, and the whole world started collapsing around them because that actually ended up being like a legit thing they needed to do. They just had no reason to know why to keep doing it. Just like all the workers at the TVA, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just told that they need to be doing it, and come to find out, supposedly that there was something to it after all, which is a cool parallel to Lost. I thought, which I enjoyed.
The whole time I was wondering if we were actually going to see who was in charge, because I didn't know if that was going to be that carrot on the stick that they kept dragging us along for.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the first misdirection with, seeing supposedly timekeepers and the robotic, which I thought was an interesting choice, but it's their version of a twist, I guess. But then still seeing the kind of the wizard behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I enjoyed the fact they delivered at the end of the season for that. Now where it leads, I have no idea. It seems like it gets convoluted really quickly. And I think the biggest challenge is going to be making sure that people understand what's going on, because it seems like anything and everything can happen. And I don't know how you focus that story wise, just because it's, but they're the pros and I'm not. I'm just simply a viewer.
So I'm gonna mention a little bit of a Black Widow spoiler right now. It's not a plot device. It's not a plot like spoiler, but it's just a thing in the movie. So mute me for like 20 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled from this. But it's interesting that in Black Widow they introduced the concept of having like the now they might have had this before too, but they used it in the show, in the movie where they had like the mask that was like a digital mask to make them look like a different character. Had they used that technology in another movie?
Winter Soldier,
In Winter Soldier, that's
Captain
right.
America, Winter Soldier.
So you got that as a way to explain away some, like you can like add some deceitfulness basically for in the from the person telling the story, like to trick the audience basically. This is one way you can trick the audience into thinking it's one character but it's really not. Then you also have the scrolls, which will probably lead to more of that, where you think a character is one character and that's actually not. And now you're going to have variants getting thrown in the mix. So there's going to be like, and that, they haven't even done like life model decoys yet in the actual MCU. They had those in the Agents of Shield, which are just basically like robot copies of people. So it's like possibly a fourth thing that they're maybe going to introduce that they can use, hopefully successfully, but in a way to like make it so you have no idea what the hell's going on half the time. Like they can explain away so many things with so many different mechanics. I hope they just don't overuse any of these.
But maybe there's something to that too. Is remember in the TVA when Loki's initially getting processed and asking if it was a robot going
Right.
through the.
Right. Yeah, I thought
So
about that
I
too.
wonder I
Yeah.
wonder if that was a
Are you
reference to that.
are you a robotic copy? I don't know. How would you know if you are? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll blow up your mulch when you go through it or something.
Just heading like going back to the Loki, like specifically some other elements, like when the kid version of Sylvie went through the processing, like that was pretty crazy. Like having her see all the splatters and stuff on the walls, like through that little portal or whatever the metal detector kind of thing. Like just thinking about all the times like that annihilated somebody, and caused such gruesomeness, and like having the kid having to go through all that, like it was pretty, not traumatic, but like, not as serious as that. But from a kid's perspective, that's pretty messed up, having all these things. And it made it a little more impactful to me because they don't really have kids that often in Marvel movies and shows. Like if you think about it, there's not really a lot of children doing stuff except for like WandaVision had like the two kids, but really there's only a handful of
And Iron Man
Iron Man,
two,
Iron
three,
Man 3. There's a little kid that helps him, yeah.
three.
But overall,
Yeah.
like I can only think of one baby in the MCU. Can you think of a baby when a baby's shown?
Uh, no.
It's Loki, actually. When they show him as like being the
Oh, when he
ice giant like
he's-
form as an infant when he's rescued by Odin, right? But like you had a hard time thinking about
which
it.
is
Like
funny because
there's
in
not many.
Loki they're like they get cold.
Yeah. Right.
They're
Yeah.
both frost giants and
Yeah.
they get cold.
Is Sylvie a frost giant? Did they ever say? Could she maybe not be?
Oh, I guess they didn't. I guess they
No,
did.
they
Maybe that's
didn't.
why he didn't need his jacket and he gave it to her. I don't know. But you're right. Yeah, he should have been able to withstand that.
It seems like the whole frost giant thing gets forgotten and shoved under the rug
Mm-hmm.
quite often.
He should have some other abilities because he has that in his DNA, right? You would think.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyways,
I mean, the show was good. I love the arc. Some really interesting things happen, but it's so hard commenting on this one franchise when we've come to expect it to be able to connect to everything else, and now it just kind of seems like just waiting for the next thing, waiting for the next thing, and trying to see how these puzzle pieces might eventually come together,
Hmm.
or not even be referenced for a year or something. I have no idea how all this is going to play. I think the Eternals might be a big turning point based on their standing in the universe. I would assume that that one will have a bigger impact on things.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the lead up into Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and then the Ant Man, like was it the Quantum? What is it called? Quantum Mania.
Onto Mania
Like those two things, the multiverse and then the time travel, like
and Spider Man.
and Spider Man, which also is potentially going to have multiverse stuff in it, since that's
Actually,
already
you're
been
right.
injected into the
Yeah,
consciousness of viewers. Hopefully, if they're up to speed on MCU stuff, then yeah, you're going to have more multiverse stuff in before you know it.
Oh my
actually, so
goodness.
it sounds like I had it backwards, where it seems like
Hmm.
the Eternals is the only one that we don't actively know or have an idea of how it's going to mix in with everything.
Yeah.
Donovan, you're being oddly
Yeah.
quiet.
Well, I'm just trying to think. I just realized I'm still waiting to find out how Adam is going to play into all of this.
Adam, what do you mean, Adam?
Oh,
So at the end of the
Warlock.
first Guardians of the
Adam Warlock?
Galaxy,
Hmm.
yeah, we're still waiting on that. And how old is that movie? I don't know. As much as I love the ending of Loki, I don't think I've ever been so nervous for the rest for the rest of the universe. I am so scared that it's just going to be so like too much, so much, and so convoluted and so like intertextualized, everything referring to everything, connecting to everything. And it's hard because kind of like Wes was saying, it's like you could do anything now. And it could be, oh, they were wearing a face mask, or oh, it was a double, or and I'm just worried that it's going to be a race to the lowest, not lowest common denominator, but it's going to be a race to whatever is going to make the most money, regardless if it connects to the story or anything like that. It's just going to be a barrage of content while Disney tries to figure out what's going to stick. Maybe, or maybe not. I have no idea what's going to happen from now on.
I don't know about how much Disney gets to decide with the Marvel universe. Marvel, I could be wrong. I don't know the inner workings of anything, but it seems like Marvel's pretty much operating at its own independent entity. I think that Disney's having has had a bigger impact on Star Wars than it has on Marvel. Possibly,
Yeah.
I could very easily be wrong, but because I
Good
think
point.
Kevin Feige is the one main one in charge, I don't know if he's getting notes from Disney, but it seems like most of it's filtering from him.
It seems like he's able to block a lot of the stuff that we don't end up seeing down the line, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that the Marvel movies are probably slightly less edgy since the acquisition. If you go back and watch Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, I think they seem a little bit more adult-ish as opposed to what came after Disney. But I don't know
Yeah.
if that is a real cause and effect
Falcon the
or
Winter
that's more
Soldier was pretty
coincidental.
edgy when he was like bashing someone's skull in with Captain America's shield.
You're right.
Like
You're
literally
right.
edgy.
That is true.
Literally
But
edgy.
no, I agree. Yeah. It'll be interesting, especially since Kang's supposed to be the big bad in Ant Man. So that's like next summer or fall when that, or even further actually. I don't remember when that one's supposed to come out. But even
The whole
like they're gonna
the whole
extend this out, you know?
the whole Kang thing has me a little bit confused. And no, actually, I probably shouldn't say confused, but Thanos was such a huge figure, physically, and just like the presence of that character was pretty menacing. And I don't know much about the Kang character. That's probably why this is why I don't see the scope of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to picture that this character is going to have the same type of impact as a villain.
Well, because they're introducing Kang, that opens the door for Fantastic Four too. Because I believe Reed Richards is related to a Kang. Yes. If
I have no
I
idea.
think so.
yeah, I believe he is. Yeah, I just looked it up. The Ant-Man movie is February 2023, so we're gonna have Kang stuff at least till then.
So, okay, the end. I do have a question. Maybe you guys can answer. The end of Loki, when he goes back to the TVA and is trying to talk to Owen Wilson's character.
Yep.
What's his name?
Mobius.
Mobius. And realizes that that Mobius is not his Mobius. Does that mean that Loki went back to an alternate reality, or did he change? Is the past now completely changed?
Well, I don't
that's-
think the past changing thing. I don't think that's how it works. Like how at least what they set up in Endgame, right? They said that's like Back to the Future logic, which they deemed that as being not how it works. So I think it's
Because
another
Mobius
timeline.
obviously didn't recognize him.
Yeah, I think it's another variant
Oh,
timeline or another offshoot timeline.
I think it's a branch
Yeah,
somehow.
or a parallel. It's a multiverse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So his
how are they going to
is
control
there.
that?
I
Yeah.
don't know. So Mobius is still there. It's not like he's like erased or whatever. It's just I think he doesn't realize he's in a different one. At least till at the beginning he doesn't, and then he's quickly figuring it out.
The whole idea of like a I forget how they phrased it in the show, but like a prime timeline, like a main flow of
Sacred
time,
timeline.
secret timeline, and deciding what justifies as that main trunk, is really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
somebody.
there were comments and references saying that, oh, these other things were supposed to happen. The Avengers were supposed to go back and mess the time and do these things, and it was really kind of interesting. Almost sounded like self-serving in a way to justify the actions of a certain group. Donovan's stroking his
I'm trying to remember. There was a
beard.
video that I watched. Stroking my beard. There was a video that I watched that kind of talked about that and how, like, how we as audience members tend to act like the timekeepers, trying to like create our own sacred timeline with our expectations for what Marvel videos should be, and if they branch off too far, then we try in our as a fan
Prune them.
of this franchise, we try to like prune the timeline to make sure that everything falls in line with the sacred timeline. I can't remember who it was that did that video. Otherwise, I would recommend people go watch it because I thought it was really good. Maybe it was Film Theory. I don't know.
thought it was
Find
interesting.
it.
I thought it was the interesting idea of pruning people didn't kill them, but it sent them to this. I forgot what it was called. This
The
almost like a
void or
realm
something?
type. The what?
The void or the
Void? Yeah, I think
something
so.
like that?
Or like the edge of time type of idea.
Yeah, end of time.
I mean, there's some strange concepts, but I thought it was interesting that everybody gets sent here, and I guess they get killed by the smoke monster,
Yeah, from Lost. Yeah.
Goliath.
and the only ones that were actively alive and surviving were the Lokis and Mobius, which I think there was a theory that he is some sort of Loki variant.
Well, I think
Likes jet skis.
I think the was it Renslayer, his boss.
Yeah.
Like there was some hint that this was not the only Mobius that she ever interacted with, too, because of the other rings on her table from other agents that he referred to. Like because he was said something like, "I'm not the only agent. You have the other agents on the side," or something like that, like an off comment. And that to me and also the name Mobius means like a loop, and so I think maybe they're plucking or using other Mobiuses from other, timelines and stuff, and like just having him. Eventually, he's gonna always figure it out, and then they have to prune him. Like so, it's just maybe there's a ton of Mobiuses running around too, in that void. As well, so it's interesting. He's supposed to be a clone in the comics too. He's supposed to be like some sort of clone type character where they just have a lot of them. So that would also lend credence to that theory.
It's so tough when a storyline no longer feels completely grounded in almost anything kind of goes. As an audience member, you're not really sure, where anything lies at that point. And I think, Donovan, that's kind of like the point you've been making the last couple of years with when it seems like you set up the rules of the universe, and when you don't follow those rules, how is the audience supposed to be really kind of coming along for the ride?
Well, we said that their MCU's movies are getting too formulaic, so can't say that much now. Falcon Winter Soldier.
You think they're going to focus more on like TV content now or movies? Because it seems to be flowing more in the direction of short form television than movies. Now, that's also like we are going through a pandemic that shut down movie productions and things like that. But so that may just be an observation more on the situation of our world right now than the intended direction that all of this is going to go to. But this seems like a flood coming.
Well, I made the comment a couple of days ago when we were together, but I think I'd said it in a different format too. That I think movies are nearly dead, simply because when you have the ability to set up episodes of something and not have to be locked into a certain time frame because of commercial interruptions, it allows you to do a type of storytelling that you can't typically do on TV and also can't do in the theater because you have time slots for theaters, and movies are only in theaters for 2 or 3 months now. They get to be cycled through a lot faster. So even if you create something for the theater, it ends up on the TV a lot faster than it ever used to.
And honestly, some of these episodes are as long as some movies. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Stranger Things. Like each one of those was over an hour long, right?
40 minutes,
It's like a
hours, something
movie
like
in
that,
and
yeah.
of itself.
It is. And each one of those episodes does not have to match exactly what you would typically do in a movie format. So story structure can be altered and changed, knowing that you're going to be able to pick right up with it the following week. So I don't know. A lot of possible changes. Hopefully, all of them good. We'll be here complaining about it or talking about it either way.
Are you guys excited for the next one, the What If series?
I am. And I like the fact that it's animated simply because I like animation. I like the way that they're doing the animation. And I think that scratches a different type of itch. But I think the real question is this What If series, I don't believe is just a throwaway series of What If. I
No,
think
they've
there
already
is going to
introduced the
be
multiverses, so yeah.
right. There's going to be some sort of relevance. I just don't know how it's going to supplement this larger grand storyline that's actually already in place. If one of those is going to end up being true,
Yeah.
or I'm really curious about the Watcher character played by Jeffrey Wright, and I love that. There was and to kind of bridge another Disney property, which is Star Wars now. There's also a group in Star Wars called the Wills that is supposed to be doing something like almost like similar to the Watcher. So I like that idea of the view. I guess I don't know how else to explain it at the moment. Almost
That's
like
a good way to explain it.
yeah, almost like this omniscient outside perspective. Otherwise it's just us, but
Right.
within that universe, an actual omniscient type of viewer or watcher commenting on things.
It's Stan Lee.
I was going to
Spoiler.
say, yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean?
In the Guardians.
Because he's in every.
Oh,
He's in every.
Well, they already made
He's
that
the
canon.
Watcher.
yes.
Yeah. In the Guardians, was it Guardians 2?
Yep.
Which was brilliant.
So what are you guys geeking out about?
I had something and now I forgot what it was.
Okay, I'll go first. I saw this in the store and I had to get it, and I'm so excited to watch the rest of the season
What is it?
that I wasn't able to. It's Lower Decks. Oh yeah, as audio podcast. Yes, I got season 1 of Lower Decks, and it is
Make
a
sure you
great
say that
show.
correctly.
Lower Decks.
I didn't know you watched Star Trek.
Because Dex can sound like something else really easily.
Okay. All right. Okay. Lower Decks. I am geeking out about season 1 and getting to finish it.
I didn't know you were into Star Trek.
Yeah.
All the times I talk Star Trek, and it's like no one else talks about Star Trek on here.
Yeah, I talked about that when the first episode came out,
All right.
and how, yeah, we've talked about. I guess not a lot. No, we haven't talked about Star Trek a lot, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's such a humorous take on something that we tend to view as more serious television, like more dramatic, more serious television. This is it kind of it's a deconstruction of like Star Trek tropes, but in a humorous way. And I love stuff like that. And I
In a
think it's cool.
canonical
So,
way too. It's all canon.
yeah, yeah. So I'm geeking out about that because I'm excited to finish
Well,
the season.
I guess I can say I'll geek out about season 2 being announced for that soon.
Of Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Decks.
Decks.
Hmm.
I'm geeking out about Masters of the Universe Revelation. I haven't finished yet. I've only watched the first 2 episodes, and they've done some bold things that I kind of already found out about a little bit ahead of time. So I was kind of prepped. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch it. I'm not going to spoil it here. I don't know where any of it's going yet. There's only, I think, 6 episodes, which seems like a really short run of this, unfortunately. And I have no idea if they're going to be doing a second season of it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'm also enjoying trying to collect all the action figures that came out for it. So there's something else geeking out now about too, and I can't remember what it was. So I might have to save that for next week once I remember it. So waiting for Wes to do his thing.
Oh, my geek out was for the season 2 of Lower Decks. I was
No,
tag team-
I know, but I
Oh.
thought it was time to talk about Patreon.
I mean, if you insist, I can talk about Patreon all day.
All right,
Like,
go
if you
for
wanted
it.
to become a patron, you could head over to patreon.com/makinggeeks to become an awesome patron. They put their money where our mouths are, and we appreciate them for that. Including our top patrons. Jordan, you're awesome. Thank you so much for what you do. Square Splinter and C3D Prop Shop. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. And if you'd like to get a hold of us, specifically for the podcast, you can go to our website, makinggeeks.com. We have the contact page. And right there, you can type in any suggestions for the show, any questions you'd like to have us answer on air. And on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes right there on makinggeeks.com.
And now that we're apart and not together, we're going to be working on our own projects individually. So if you want to see what Sean is up to, you can follow him at Geek Builders. Wes, you can follow over at Geeksmithing. And if you want to see my feeble attempt at growing a beard, you can follow me at Once Upon a Workbench.
I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the live chat. Remember that if you want to be part of the show, at least part of the conversation when we're recording, we record every Thursday evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Then you can do the time conversion for wherever
Nope.
you're living in the US.
Nope, 9:30.
Did I mess it up again?
9:30 p.m.
I
Eastern time,
keep-
6:30
I keep
p.m.
doing that. Keep doing that. I'm sorry.
West Coast. Yep.
I'll,
No
I'll
worries.
get it right one of these times. 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's yeah. So that's better. But we'd love to hear from you. We love when people hang out in the chat when we're recording. It always makes recording even that much more enjoyable. You can find new episodes of the podcast every Saturday on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from all of us, all of you, have a great week.
Fantastic week. See ya.
Until next